What's up, everybody? What's up? Welcome back to another Legal Hands to the Face podcast. We have a great show planned for today. We have a special guest, the one and only host of the morning show on WIP, the Hammer, Joe DeCamara. He's going to be joining us shortly. He was down at training camp yesterday. He's going to give us his opinion on this Philadelphia Eagles team, things he's excited about. So it should be a great show. Stay tuned. And guys, just a reminder, if you're not following us on social media, head on over to all your favorite social media platforms. We are posting content every single day on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. It gives you guys a chance to engage, like, follow, share. The more Philadelphia Eagles fans we can reach, the better. And like I said on the last podcast, big announcement. We have signed a deal with the Jacob Sports Network that's going to be live streaming our show every Monday night at 6:30 on YouTube. So be sure to follow the Jacob Sports Network. That's JAKIB on YouTube. It's going to be great. We're also going to be co-hosting their halftime show down live at the Ocean Casino. So be sure to check that out as well as the season approaches. Some big things coming this year, but let's not waste any time. Let's get right to our guest, the one and only Hammer from 94 WIP, Joe DeCamara. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Bill. How are you, pal?
Really appreciate you jumping on, man. I know it's a busy time of year for you guys. Down at training camp yesterday. How was that, man?
It was fun. It was really great to be back at training camp. You know, I've been fortunate to be out there a number of years now. And, you know, it really struck me. So on one hand, it's the same thing every year. Everything looks the same. There's 90 players. The fields look the same. There's a redundancy to it. On the other hand, there's different expectations with different years. And, you know, I really think, Bill, that this is the year that the Eagles have the highest expectations to win a championship since they entered training camp in 2004. And I say that, and you might say, well, wait, okay, what about 2017? Well, 2017, there were not high expectations. 2018, there were high expectations, but Carson was coming off a torn knee, and we didn't know, of course, when he was going to play. 2005, after the Eagles had played in the Super Bowl and lost it, it was a fiasco with Terrell Owens. So while expectations were high, there was also this huge cloud just hanging over everything. So I would say the last time that I felt like the Eagles were poised for this level of greatness was 2004. And of course, they achieved a lot that year and got to the Super Bowl. So it was great to be back at camp. I think they got a stacked team, and you know, there's some potential pitfalls, but for the most part, they're certainly better aligned than almost every, if not every, team in pro football.
Yeah, and I was listening to you guys this morning, and you made a good point. Is there's really no drama surrounding this team right now. It's unbelievable. Correct. So not only are expectations through the roof, all the players are healthy, knock on wood. Yep. No drama. It's just an exciting time to be an Eagles fan. So let me ask you, with the expectations where they are, would anything less than a Super Bowl win be a disappointment for you?
You know, this is a tough one. I swear to God, I think the ancient Greek philosophers could have done sports talk radio on this topic. So what was the nature of your question? A disappointment?
If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, is that considered a disappointing season?
I'm not going to say yes to that. Look, I know, I get it. I totally get it. I know what you're getting at. I'm not gonna say yes to that, because if they play in the Super Bowl and they lose by 3 points in the Super Bowl, while that's disappointing that they didn't win it, I can't put that in a disappointing season category. I just don't think that's right. Take the 2009 Phillies. They lost to the Yankees. They lost in 6 games. They got to the World Series. They had been in the World Series the prior year. Would I call 2009 Phillies a disappointment? No. I just don't. I think that's too high a standard. I just think that's too high a standard. So, no, I would not call it. It would be disappointing that they lost, but I would not call it a disappointing season. No. Now, if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, that's a disappointing season. If the Phillies this year don't make the playoffs, that's a disappointing season. If the Phillies this year make the playoffs but lose in 2 games in the wild card round, that's a disappointing season. But if the Eagles get to the Super Bowl and lose, that's not a disappointing season.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you, man. I mean, you look at the stats, history is not on their side. I mean, no NFC team has gone back to the Super Bowl after losing it in 50 years since the Vikings in 74. No NFC East team has repeated as a champion in 20 years. Eagles have the hardest strength of schedule going into the season. I mean, everything is stacked up against them, but I think they have enough veteran leadership on this team with Kelsey, Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Jalen Hurts, that they could be the first team to go back in 50 years after losing for the NFC. But
Look, it's hard for me, Bill, to imagine a team was more poised for it in a while. I mean, I can't remember every team right now that played in the Super Bowl and lost. I mean, I could figure it out, but you got to imagine that they are uniquely capable of going back. But to your point, history absolutely says don't count on it.
yeah. Yeah, and it's just that this offense looks so damn good on paper. And you're a St. Joe's prep guy, right? Former St. Joe's prep guy.
Very
Two
proud.
new players from the prep coming on the team this year. Tell me a little bit about how excited are you to see what DeAndre Swift and maybe even Olamide Zaccheaus add to this offense?
Well, I'm really excited. I mean, obviously as a prep guy, I'm very proud, very proud. I knew of DeAndre, when he was there. Some of the other players that have come through the years, it's hard for me to follow all of them. But we all knew when DeAndre was there that he was, I mean, we were all just so proud. I mean, the prep did not have the greatest football history until kind of cranked it up in the late 90s. And they prep had won a state title in the a city title, a Catholic League title in the 70s, but that was really rare. And but now, of course, the prep just wins these state titles like it's nothing, which is unbelievable. It's so unbelievable. I'm very excited. I mean, as a prep guy, I'm super proud, and I've heard really good things about both of them from people at the prep. I got a lot of people I check in with at the prep, and I'm down there for events, and so I've asked around a little bit, and they both get glowing reviews as humans, because to me that's where it's. I mean, look, as Eagles fans, we want to see the Eagles be great, but as a prep alum and a proud prep person, it's like, well, tell me about the person. Who is he as a guy? And what's come back to me is they're really quality people, and obviously they both had nice starts to their career. DeAndre especially. Got to stay healthy a little bit more often. So I'm really, really anxious to see what they got.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that you said you heard they're good people, because it seems that's been the theme of Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni over the last couple of years, is bringing in guys that fit this culture and are good on and off the field. So exciting to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a critical look. You can obviously win with bad people. I mean, it's happened in sports, but I think that the more you can. To me, it's two different things. One, you want the town to feel galvanized, proud of who represents you. Like, for instance, I mean, take two of the longest tenured guys that we had a chance to talk to yesterday on our show extensively, Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey. I mean, you're not going to find finer people than that. They're just wonderful people. But then the other side of character, I think, that matters a great deal for winning is what kind of character do they have in the face of adversity? Are they dig down guys? Are they guys that are going to run for the hills and say, "Oh, I want to be out of here. I don't like this." Not take accountability. Oh, it's that guy's fault. Or are they the type of people that when the going gets tough, they anchor in? And obviously, Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey are anchor in kind of guys and real leaders, and amongst many others on the team. So I think Howie Roseman and Sirianni, and it also goes back to Doug. Believe it or not, it even goes back to Andy Reid, who put a pretty big premium on it. I mean, he drafted Jason Kelsey all those years. He drafted Brandon Graham. So, it matters. I think character matters a great deal.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think that if Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and Jason Kelsey all stay healthy this year, that they're going to finish 1, 2, and 3 for most games ever played in an Eagles uniform. That's pretty incredible.
Very incredible. And who's that passing? Ben Eric?
David Akers, I think, has the most.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben Derek's
So
up there.
that counts, but doesn't fully count because obviously as a kicker, it's a different level of taxing on the body. But that's okay. I mean, look, I love
Yeah.
Avery. Great person. He's an amazing kicker.
Yeah, but I believe Ben Derek has played the most seasons in Eagles history, but they didn't play 16, 17 games back then.
Right. That makes sense. Yep.
So,
yeah.
Now let me ask you a little bit. I know you guys talked about it on your show, but what do you think's going on with this national disrespect that they have for Jalen Hurts? I know as Philadelphia fans, we're very sensitive. We always think the national media is out to get us, but it does seem like Hurts is not getting the respect that I think he deserves.
I agree. Look, Bill, I think there's a few things going on here. I think it starts with the fact that there's so many Americans, fans and analysts, that are used to a quarterback dropping back and passing the ball and not running. That when someone can do what Hurts does, I think some people consider it almost illegitimate, fluky. It's a fad. They just don't believe in it as much. And I think that's going on here with Hurts. I mean, the reality is that football has always changed, through all the decades, many twists and turns within each decade. And I think what Jalen Hurts does isn't going anywhere. I think there's going to be a lot more quarterbacks that play with the Jalen Hurts style of play, a lot more 10 years from now than the Tom Brady style of play. By the way, it doesn't necessarily mean the Jalen Hurts style of play is better. The argument is said that, well, a quarterback that can, throw the ball from the pocket or can throw the ball from the pocket and run, hey, give me the guy that can run. I understand how that's perceived as better by some people. But the flip side is, well, what about the injury risk that comes with running the football? And will a great quarterback from the pocket ultimately have more wins and more Super Bowls than someone who can run? Maybe, because I think you're less inclined to get injured. So it's complicated. But my main point here to answer your question is I think there are a lot of people nationally that recognize Hurts is very good, but haven't yet recognized how truly great he is. Now, the one thing I will say on the flip side of that, and we might not know this until 2 or 3 years from now or sometime this year if a whole bunch of players around him gets injured. The one thing that's difficult to evaluate, I believe, is what will it look like when Jalen Hurts has lesser players around him? And that day will come. I mean, he is not going to play for the next 15 years with receivers as great as A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, a line that's maybe the best in football, a tight end that's a top 3 or 4 in football. I mean, that's a unique advantage. And someday we'll find out. It might be during this season if guys get hurt. And then we'll see how much Hurts' production drops off with lesser players around him.
Yeah, I think one of the things, though, that we've had the benefit of seeing that maybe the national media hasn't is his leadership ability and his work ethic. I mean, we saw him come in as a rookie behind Carson Wentz and how he just rallied guys around him, natural-born leader, and has worked hard every single day to get better. And I don't even think we've come close to seeing his ceiling yet.
So I agree with your first point entirely. The national people just have no sense of who he is as a person. And I also think they probably see him as pretty boring, which I think on one hand he is personality-wise, but I think there's a compelling aspect to him being boring because he's wise. Like it's weird. He's boring, but he's compelling. It's strange.
Yeah.
The second thing you said about, having, scratched the surface or ceiling, whatever you said there, I don't know on that one. I hope you're right. You might be right. I do think he'll improve. But it's also hard for me. My hesitation is I fear that injury will set in at some point here and you'll have a diminished physical specimen. And then what happens? I mean, what you're saying is predicated on, to a certain extent, I think, like if he stays healthy. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if he stays healthy, he should get better. But we saw Carson Wentz get worse because he got injured. We saw Donovan McNabb get worse eventually because he got injured. I mean, Donovan and Tom Brady came out of the NFL draft 1 year apart, and Tom Brady played till like 2 minutes ago. And Donovan McNabb has been out of pro football for, I'd have to look it up, but I think it's
like forever. Yeah,
like 13 years or something. So, like, let's see what happens with Hurts on the injury front, and hopefully that does not take away he's got these, superhuman capabilities, but we'll have to see what happens. That's a very important part of this. I mean, here's another example. Ray Allen and Iverson, same draft, right around the same age. I mean, AI game predicated on speed to an extent, fearlessness, toss, and all that. Pretty good shooter, not an exceptional shooter. Ray Allen, at that time, perhaps the best of all time. At that, him, Reggie Miller, some other guys, and obviously Steph Curry's past everybody, but Ray Allen still might be the second best shooter of all time. And he was able to play for another, I don't know, 4 or 5 years because he kept himself in better shape and he had a game that aged better. So we'll ultimately see how but look, we don't have to worry about Jalen aging yet. He's only 24 or 25. He should have a long way to go. But know this, we also thought that about Carson in 2017, and it's July of 2023, and Carson is an unsigned player. He's unsigned. Yeah, unbelievable.
He may have to retire, which is just
great. He might be done.
But well, I'm gonna let Joe run because we're recording this, guys, right after he did the morning show. What are you getting up these days? Like 4 a.m, Joe?
3:30. It's all good.
Well, let me just tell you,
I'm a little tired today, but it's all good. Bill, it's really been a pleasure to be with you, and congrats on all your success and what you're doing, man.
I really appreciate it, man. And same to you. I used to listen to you guys when you were the 10 to 2, and now I'm listening to you in the morning. You guys got a great show, and it just keeps getting better. So keep it up, brother.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thank you, man. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks again, Joe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, bud.
That was a lot of fun, guys, talking to Joe DeCamara. You guys, if you're following along on podcast and you didn't get a chance to see him, Joe looked tired. He's been up since 3:30 this morning. We got him right after he recorded his morning show today. So we really appreciate him jumping on and giving his opinion on some things. If you're following along on YouTube or Facebook, leave some comments below. Do you agree with some of the things Joe was saying? He's a little bit concerned about Jalen Hurts' injury in the future, but is excited about this coming season, as are we. He wouldn't go as far as saying that anything less than a Super Bowl would be a disappointment, but did say if they were to lose in the first round that he would be disappointed with that. But like I've said on previous podcasts, and I said to Joe, history is not on the Philadelphia Eagles side, but I think that with this leadership and with this team and the talent that they have, that they can overcome the Super Bowl hangover and the history of no repeat NFC East winners in the last 20 years. And the reason why I say that, I think the Philadelphia Eagles can overcome all of that because they have the best quarterback head coach duo in the NFC, and there's nobody even close. Number one, there's no quarterbacks that even come close to Jalen Hurts. But when you put the combination between him and Nick Sirianni, who else is there? I mean, there's some good coaches in the NFC, but they don't have great quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan, if you think he's a great coach, who's his starting quarterback this year? Brian Dable, great coach. Well, Daniel Jones is not on Jalen Hurts' level, and the list goes on and on. So, guys, I am predicting, I think the Eagles are going to be the first team in 20 years to win the NFC East in back-to-back seasons, and I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. Very tough for them to make it to another Super Bowl, but if they can get home field advantage like they had last year, I don't think there's anybody coming into the link and beating this Eagles team. But let me know what you guys think. But again, be sure, like, follow, subscribe. If you haven't left a review on the podcast yet, do so. It really allows us to reach more Eagles fans and get all your social media platforms. Start following Legal Hands to the Face. We got some big things planned for 2023. Guys, appreciate the support. Thanks for listening. And as always, go Birds.